think. Hold on. Welcome to San Antonio Sports Facebook Live Motivation Monday. I'm Jenny Carnes, and I am so excited today to get to visit with WNBA All-Star Nneka Ogwumike. Nneka played college ball for the Stanford Cardinal, helping lead them to the 2010 NCAA Women's Final Four right here in San Antonio. She was the #1 pick in the 2012 WNBA draft by the Los Angeles Sparks, for whom she still plays. She is a 6-time WNBA All-Star, 2016 WNBA champion and league MVP, 2012 Rookie of the Year, 2-time FIBA World Cup gold medalist, and a member of the USA basketball national team training for the 2021 Olympics in Tokyo. Nneka hails from Cypress, Texas, where she went an unbelievable 108-2 in her varsity career. So it's not every day I get to rattle off a bio like that. So Nneka, welcome. First of all, thank you for joining us. This is such a privilege. So I'm going to start with something easy. How are you? And what are you up to these days?
I'm doing very well. I actually just recently got back from a very safe and successful USAB training camp that was in South Carolina, and it was exciting for us to be able to get back on the court again. Actually, I think it had been almost exactly a year since we had done a USA affiliated event, and it was nice to see everyone. And I came home yesterday, and now I am back home in Texas training.
Well, so talk a little bit about that since you mentioned the national team. It's so amazing that our Olympic national team is preparing for this summer, but it's also got to be very difficult having the Olympics postponed last summer. So what is it like preparing for that and dealing with the uncertainty still surrounding the games?
I think I've just kind of maintained this attitude of just staying ready, and it's been tough because, I think everyone has had to tap into that in some regard. This last year it's shaken everyone's lives. And I just try my best to stay ready for, what we expect to happen, but also for the changes and kind of the adaptations that we've had to make in this past year. But also staying very grateful through the process. Getting into a new regimen, of course, training in ways that I haven't had before, and just really being prepared, being rested, and maintaining my focus.
And that's so important. I mean, I just can't even wrap my head around the disappointment of every Olympic athlete all over the world last year facing that announcement of the postponement. So that kind of leads into my next question. You probably heard last week that we announced that San Antonio and the region will be hosting the entire NCAA Division I Women's Basketball Championship. All 64 teams coming here, all 63 games. You played in the Final Four here in 2010. The event will clearly look different. It will feel different from what you experienced in front of 25,000 fans in the Alamo Dome. So what advice would you give to teams to get the most out of their tournament experience, both from the perspective of knowing it's going to be different, but also knowing that it's going to be historic?
Well, I mean, I would definitely have to say that, an attitude of gratitude is important, especially after last year's tournament not happening, one in which so many people were excited for. And, although we still have to maintain safety and, of course, responsibility and accountability for each other so that we can get this done, still enjoying every moment. It's going to require less travel, but in that time that we're so used to when we're going from different regions to play at different levels of the tournament, I think there's a lot of new experiences that can be had by having all the teams in one place. I have experience from kind of experiencing a successful bubble season, and it was one that we did not ever anticipate being a part of, but there were so many incredible moments with having all of the players there that kind of contributed to maintaining that competitive atmosphere for us to be able to play at a high level and understand that no matter what, the opportunity is there for us.
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned that about your experience in the bubble over the summer, because that's what we're trying to create in San Antonio is how can we still give these student athletes an unbelievable experience here in San Antonio and a part of our culture, but without really interfacing with them. So I'm open to ideas, but I love that you touched on that. That's great. I want to shift gears just a little bit here. So San Antonio Sports offers fundamental youth sport development through our iPlay after school program, ensuring that underserved children in our community can experience the power of sport.
Mm-hmm.
So for our audience watching, share your thoughts on what the power of sport has really done for you in your life.
Well, you know, the power of sport, it kind of reaches all aspects of life. And I think that initially, you know, playing sports for me as a youngster was exciting because I was able to express myself in a way that I could use my body and really kind of challenge myself in ways that I don't know, I normally wouldn't if it was in the classroom or in extracurriculars. And what I love about sports is why I still play today is being able to be a teammate. I'm very much a team sport person. So being a teammate, being great with my teammates, making other teammates great is something that's always been very important to me. But I think overall, the power of sport is vital for the life characteristics and the life experiences that young kids can develop to really aspire to do what they want to do. It's important for young kids to understand that yeah, it's great watching the WNBA and the NBA and whatever sport you want to be a part of. But the reality is that not many of us end up playing at a professional level, but that doesn't mean that your experience in sports stops there. And I say that as I realized that basketball afforded me an opportunity to play at the university level and get a scholarship at an amazing university. That's just one of the many opportunities that sports can provide. And then lastly, of course, importantly, the power of sports is incredibly important for the development of young kids who are in sports, who are also being guided and have mentors and coaches and teachers and parents that understand that power as well. You know, empowering young kids to be in sport and then also coaching them through it, that develops their confidence, their teamwork skills, and their motivation to tackle anything else in life is something that I think is the biggest takeaway from what sports can do at the grassroots level and ultimately through life.
Yeah, that's spot on. And our iPlay After School program is offered to third through fifth graders, and that is such a pivotal point in their upbringing. So, in addition to all of these things that you get from your coaches and your mentors through the learning of sport, one of the things that we emphasize the most in our character curriculum and development is sportsmanship. And, it's more than just X's and O's, it's more than practice and fundamentals, and those are all very important. But you've received several awards for sportsmanship, and we're proud of you as a Texan to be on that national and international platform. But talk a little bit about the importance of sportsmanship for you.
I as a human being, I've always kind of hung my hat on integrity because I've always wanted to treat people as though I would like to be treated. And I think sports is a perfect example to practice that and to lead by example. And sportsmanship is not, it can be challenging for different people, but there's so many different ways to show it. And I think it's really what kind of maintains I guess the fairness in sport, understanding that when you step on the court, when you step on the field, everything is basically equal. Where you come from, what you believe in, who you're friends with, it ultimately doesn't matter because I'm an athlete, you're an athlete, we're about to play. And so when you step onto a field in which you level the playing field, I think it allows people to understand that you and I, we're both the same. And that's where I feel sportsmanship can really come into play. And it's something that I think is probably one of the most important things to coach young kids in sports about.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think we saw a little bit of that yesterday during the Super Bowl game when the coaching staff of Tampa Bay, they were all the same. We have women on the sidelines, we have a female official. It's just an incredible display of we are all the same and who can get the job done, right?
Mhm.
Pretty neat to see. Um, so I think the next thing I want to ask you about, Nneka, obviously 2020 was so difficult for all of us uh, dealing with the pandemic. Very difficult for all of us to stay motivated. Being a professional women's basketball is a year-round occupation. You know, from the WNBA to playing on the national team to playing international ball. We all dealt with this. So, what are your tips on how to stay motivated? And we're still dealing with this in 2021. So, any tips for us out there?
Well, I think that one thing we learned is that having a lot of time to yourself allows you to figure yourself out. It really gives you space to understand yourself better. And knowing that you need to be gentle with yourself through the process is important. Because right now we're all at home, and some people are more disconnected and some people are more connected, depending on you know how much you indulge in this age of social media and technology. And I always say that content dies with comparison. And I think in these times, it was incredibly easy for us to compare ourselves to what we're scrolling against. And and knowing that how you do it and how it works for you is all that matters, is what's important. So I'd really just have to say that, being patient with yourself, and then also kind of setting boundaries for yourself and on yourself, because I had experience early on in lockdown when I just decided, let me just wake up whenever, work out whenever, eat whenever, and that did not fly. And so I found it was good for me, even in this time of uncertainty, to still create a routine for myself, create boundaries for myself, so that I say, hey, I'm waking up and I'm working out at this time. This time is allotted to my office work. This is where I cut it off. And I think maintaining those types of boundaries for ourselves can really kind of add some balance that we feel like we've lacked in this past year.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And you're talking about your physical routine, but how would you compare the relationship between being physically well and then your mental wellness, which we know is so important? So, what have you been doing to kind of keep that balance?
Yeah, well, for me, I've when it comes to my physical wellness, I am my own competitor, especially in these times. And so, if I feel like I don't want to do something, I think about whether or not that will help or hurt me, depending on what it is. I don't compromise on my training, because I know that that's something that's very important to me. And so I try to make sure that today is better than yesterday, and I focus only on today. Tomorrow's challenges come when tomorrow comes. But then through that, I maintain balance by creating boundaries for myself. Sometimes I have to remind myself to calm down, to sit down, to indulge in something, or to tap into, the things that kind of are therapeutic for me or that bring me joy and peace. And so a lot of times that may be, hey, I close my computer at this time, let me watch a show. I feel like eating this, let me order that. Let me indulge in myself. Let me not be so strict on myself. And most times I find that when I offer myself that time and that space to cook or to read a book, that's really kind of where I find that balance that is necessary for me. And quite frankly, too, I've maintained more connection with the people in my life now than I did before. You know, it's been kind of like a double-edged sword in that regard. You think that you're more connected when you get to see people, which you can be in a lot of ways, especially when it comes to like your family. But I've been able to stay in contact with people that I didn't before, because we were all at home. And so that's another kind of aspect or a silver lining on all of this. That's kind of helped me stay mentally clear as well.
I think you just hit it on the head. Silver lining. That's what we say around here in my office. We try to find those silver linings every day, both at work and at home, and that balance. And that's one of the greatest things that's come out of this time is while we're very disconnected, we're more connected than ever. I mean, when would I ever get to interview you on the computer screen, right? This is
Right.
incredible. So I think that's such a neat thing. Any other silver lining that you'd like to toss out here as we wrap up?
Oh, I mean, I think you kind of said it too, I've been a part of more panels than I could ever think of in this year. I've been able to meet people that I never thought that I would meet. And I count it as meeting, even if it's on the computer, because I've been able to engage in conversations that I'm only so used to like listening to on a podcast or watching on television. And I do really feel like that is kind of a blessing in disguise in all of this. And I look forward to maintaining those connections, once it's safer for me to now maybe finally get to see you, Jenny, in person, And so that, I think you're absolutely correct about that. And I just try to remain grateful with all the opportunities that come my way, whether I'm at home or if I'm in person.
Well, I think that's all we can do, right? And I hope to see you in person in San Antonio during the NCAA Women's Championship. I've got the Final Four trophy on my desk. I don't know if you can see it,
Oh
but
yeah.
that's what we will hoist on April the 4th. And, if it's Stanford, who knows? One of the greatest coaches of all time. Love to see Tara back here. But I just want to say thank you for your time today, your insight, and just being who you are, representing not only our Olympic team, but women in professional sports. And this was such a privilege. So thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me. I look forward to seeing you in San Antonio.
See you soon.
All righty.